me give you a little bit of context and background on why me and Cory are going to be talking about ransomware crews and some of the goals we have for this presentation today. Steve did a great intro, so thank you for that. But a little context on our firm and what we see every day and why I think we're good folks to talk about this topic in general. So as a firm, Risk360, we do audits. So we do a lot of certifications, so the alphabet soup of different security certifications. More importantly, we also help implement security programs and manage security programs. So that gives us a very unique perspective from auditing them and assessing security programs, but also building them out ourselves and running them every day. And also Cory, he's the head of our offensive security practice, so he gets to emulate the attackers and try to break systems, and then we try to fix those systems. So that different suite of services gives us a very interesting perspective on security programs broadly speaking, and then the technical systems underneath them. And what we were asked to talk about is ransomware. So Cory, who's an expert on the subject, did some research, and we're going to talk about like what is a ransomware gang look like, what's the economic model, who's the who behind the ransomware. Give a little bit of context. I know a lot of you are in security or in IT, and maybe you need the words to say to your leadership to provoke them to take action to build a more robust security program to prepare for things like ransomware. So we'll talk about a little bit of the economics behind it. How big of an impact is it to the industry? Is this something you can ignore, or should you be taking action? Talk a little bit about who is the bad guys like we talked about. And then the part I'm really excited about is Cory and I are going to take a red team, blue team perspective, meaning Cory's going to walk through actual playbooks that some of these ransomware crews are using, talk about how they're getting in, and then we'll switch to the good guy perspective, the blue team perspective, and talk about some controls that you can be thinking about right now that you should implement. So that's our agenda. Cory, anything you want to add about our agenda?
No, I don't think so. I think you made it. You did a good job of explaining what we're trying to do today. I really look forward to getting into the how of it. Right.
Awesome. So I'll let everyone look at this for a second. So this is a slide that I've been using for several years now, even on campus, which is one of my favorite places to give some talks. We'll go to the universities here across America, here in Georgia, where I'm at. And over the last couple of years, I always ask, who knows what this is? And every year I see less and less hands of people who know what this comes from. And this year was actually the first year where no one raised their hand. No one knew in the whole class of IT students what they were looking at here. So Cory, do you know what we're looking at? What is this from?
I believe it's Oregon Trail.
Yeah, Oregon Trail, classic. One of my first computer games. And if you don't know what Oregon Trail is, the concept of Oregon Trails was back in the late 1800s, and it was settlers that were moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, horse and wagon. It was kind of like a role-playing game where you got to build a family, you got to name them, you got to hunt along the way, try to keep your family alive, and make it to the destination on the West Coast. Floppy disk, if you guys remember playing it that way. You can play it online today. But what's interesting about this is the late 1800s, and literally people were moving west in horse and wagon. Like that's where we were in the late 1800s. So I'll ask you this. Does anyone know who this guy is? So you can take a look. Cory, do you recognize this person?
I don't. I know I should, but I don't right now. No.
This is Henry Ford. So early 1900s, around 1900 is when the Model T came out. And that changed everything. So you go from Oregon Trail in the late 1800s to the Model T in the early 1900s. And between 1908 and 1960, like 4 million miles of roads were built. And I'm kind of a history buff, so I like to think about like what's going on in the world at those different times. And one of the things I think about is, man, people were living in a revolution at that time. Because you think about all the things that happened because of road travel. People got new jobs, asphalt companies were created, stop sign companies, people who were maintaining roads, the ability to travel across the country. Oregon Trail was obsolete now because you could just drive across the country. So much changed during that time. And I always think to myself, when you're living in such a revolutionary time, do you know that you're living in that revolutionary time? And I think a lot of people probably did at this time. And that kind of takes us to our modern day. What's the revolution we're living in? Where this is our digital universe. And this is the data creation by volume in zettabytes year over year. And the key takeaway here is in the last 2 years, more data has been created and stored that was created and stored in all of human history. So we're seeing this just explosion of data creation and storage. That's a trend we're seeing. Then you think about what's happening in terms of the shared risk model. So every company is creating unparalleled amounts of data. We're each individually creating unparalleled amounts of data, and we're sharing that data with key service providers. So everyone can think about your own business and who you're relying on to do business with. You probably have a payroll company. You're probably using a cloud service provider. Maybe you're using an HRIS system. Whatever you're using, you're sharing critical data with a whole ecosystem of data share or service providers. So that means functionally, not only do you have to worry about your own cybersecurity, you also have to worry about the cybersecurity of your business partners that could also put you at risk. So we're thinking about these trends that are happening: unparalleled data creation, sharing all of that data with numerous third parties who also have to worry about their cybersecurity posture. And then we get to the problem